There's a lot of excitement heading into this Bears season as training camp is in full swing. The excitement of what can be for Justin Fields. Can the Chicago Bears compete in the NFC North? The boogeyman has left Green Bay and he is now in New York City. So it's going to be a very interesting, exciting, hopefully prosperous season for ours, Chicago Bears. But there's an underlying story that's going to be kind of overcasted upon this team for a few years to come. And here on the Sports Cubicle with the marvelous one, Dan Marver, Devin Tingle, Paul Chivari, I'm Mike Mercado, the stadium that is going to be built, Soldier Field 2, the new home of the Chicago Bears, whatever they decide to name it. AT&T presents the home of the Chicago Bears. Verizon presents the home of the Chicago Bears in what's supposed to be Arlington Heights. But as this movement has gotten closer and closer with the deal done of the Bears buying all that land that was the Arlington Park racetrack, we are now in a new era of Kevin Warren being the head man in charge of the Chicago Bears. And now this really interesting conversation has come out with Kevin Warren, and we're just going to talk about a little bit of what's going on here because the news came out that at least 12 months from now is when construction might begin for a stadium for the Chicago Bears. And in that, it'll be about 3 years worth of construction. So why don't we go into this article by Ryan Taylor? Kevin Warren, everything is on the table for the Bears Stadium. Kevin Warren, CEO and president of the Chicago Bears, recently joined NBC's Peter King's podcast to discuss the Bears and their stadium endeavors. Recently, the Bears encountered a fork in the road with Arlington Heights, the 326-acre property they purchased in February for just under $200 million. A steal, which is crazy, right? In today's market where it's all about owning property and owning land, $200 million for that much. When asked about the location of the stadium, Warren was clear about the Bears' current stance. Quote, everything is on the table, Warren told King. Quote, we had the period where we were focused on Arlington. We have had some issues to work on. There's a possibility there. But one of the things I promised myself and promised the McCaskies is that I would come in and take a fresh look at what's the right thing to do. And if it turns out to be Arlington, it turns out to be Arlington. If it's in downtown Chicago, Warren didn't finish that last sentence, but his conversation with King focused on Chicago. Warren was very complimentary of Soldier Field, the lakefront location, and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, shout out to Brandon. 2, quote, God really kissed downtown Chicago with the lakefront, Warren said. I don't think there's any place in the country that has that beauty of a city right upon a beautiful lake in Chicago. The Bears recently reopened their search for a stadium location after they got tangled up with the Arlington Heights on property valuations as it relates to annual tax payments. But what I really want to talk about, Devin, is the Chicago politics. I still believe the Bears are going to stay in Arlington Heights. I don't think they're going to get a new stadium in Chicago. What I find interesting is Kevin Warren being here. I do think they're going to stay in Arlington Heights. They've already paid the money for it. We know the Bears. They're not just going to give up on that investment. They're going to invest and build the stadium there. The property value alone of what the stadium is going to be is just too much for them to pass up. But Kevin Warren being there is interesting because it is a fresh pair of eyes. It's somebody the Bears have never had where it's a shark. It's somebody who will be cutthroat in these business negotiations. And I really just wanted to get your opinion on, obviously, I think we both believe they're still going to Arlington Heights. I don't think they're going to be playing on the lakefront. They might have something with partnerships with Chicago, with the Pop Warner and the Park Districts and nights at Soldier Field and so on and so forth, but they're going to build their 80,000 seat stadium and own the business park and all that. But the fresh eyes of Kevin Warren, does that pique your interest a little bit of maybe there is that little bit of an opening that they might head somewhere else?
Well, honestly, I think the thing about Kevin Warren is nice that, like you said, he's a shark. He's doing things. As before, how many years we're just used to seeing good old George McCaskey sit on his big fat butt and wait for something magical to kind of happen, throw a few things here and there. I'm with you on the point where it's like they did buy the land out in Arlington Heights, which definitely makes me feel they're going to build something there. But what's going to be the case if they're not going to play there? They're going to try and get an XFL team or a USFL team? I really don't think so here. So it's kind of the point where I definitely kind of see this more as I think Kevin Warren is, I don't want to say the words because I can't say them on the radio, but he's swinging something around, trying to see who's going to give him the better, who's going to push back or who's going to grab that thing. And I'm going to stop right there. He's going to get real inappropriate if I can't say those words. But I definitely think he's kind of just, really trying to be like, walking around Mr. Big, what, trying to kind of just push here and there. So, I was hearing a lot where he's at the point where he's like, I want a dome. I think that's perfectly fine in the city of Chicago. Christmas Eve last year, it was negative 4 degrees, probably colder, and the Bears had a game in Chicago. If you watched it on TV, it was pretty pathetic and attendance was terrible. You build a dome, you heat it up, that's never going to be an issue there. Definitely think that's the way they need to go here. Arlington Heights is where I personally want them to go. Definitely feel it'll be a lot nicer because, one, the people still buy their hotels in the city of Chicago. It'll still bring revenue into Chicago. They'll be making money here like they always do. I don't know what their lease is on Soldier Field as a whole, how long they have to go. At the point where it's like right now, it's like they have that land. As you said, they got it for a steal, so they could definitely sell it for a lot more if they want to. But around this time next year, they were predicted to start building something there, a stadium, I mean, unless they want to change up to something else there. So it does seem like a very strange sort of thing if they're going to stay in Chicago. Why would they stay in Chicago if they're going to already start doing this? Unless their plan is to, get a different sporting team like XFL or something. And I really don't know how it goes about getting, different teams in those leagues. Or if this is just going to be, we're building this and it's just going to be here. Because, we have not so much in Illinois, but, you go up to Milwaukee, they have a bunch of, abandoned baseball parks. It's pretty sad when you really think about that. But this also does bring me back to something my uncle was telling me. I wish Paul, Marver were here, are two old folks, because back in the 80s, the Cubs were all set to move to Schaumburg, and last minute decided to stay in Wrigley Field. So, anything can happen, Mercado, so that's the whole reason why I'm not fully, they're going to Arlington Heights. I'm I could definitely see, especially now with this, I could see them working out some deal to stay here, because let's be real here. The Bears are one of the most loved NFL franchises, even if they've been complete dog crap for the past, I don't want to say how long. I could see the NFL and Roger Goodell trying to, get back on his look at me, like me, throwing some money to the Chicago Bears for this new stadium.
I do think there is an actual pot out there from the owners of the NFL to help with new stadiums being built, especially because they're such revenue-generating Goliaths when it comes to how they make their money off-season and during the season. I think the Bears are just playing business hardball. I think it's smart. I think this is the first time they've been in a position like this where they can actually make a lot of money. They can make generational wealth. This is a team that's evaluated at nearly, $6 billion at this point. They are the mom-and-pop shop of the NFL. They don't have money. The money they're going to have is coming from this, the new stadium, the land they own. And I think going to Naperville or going to Aurora or going to Evanston, wherever you want to go, that's all fine and dandy. They are going to make awesome renders of how stadiums would look there, even how Chicago proper on the lakefront where Soldier Field is now, how it would look. I just think it's comes razor, the road with less obstruction. The easiest path is probably the true path. They own the land. They're just waiting to get the best deal they can. It's all about tax breaks. It benefits Arlington Heights and it benefits the Bears and benefits the state because you get new construction on the IDOT because of the expressway and all the new roads you have to do, the property values around there. And you're still somewhat in the Chicago land area. You're not in Chicago anymore, but a lot of these teams don't play in their proper cities. I don't know how California works, but Inglewood is where the Chargers and the Rams play. The Meadowlands is in Jersey for the Jets and Giants. The Cowboys play in Arlington. Gillette Stadium is not in Boston, it's in Foxborough. So there is these stadiums that are regional. The Carolina Panthers play in Charlotte, but they're also supposed to be representative of South Carolina. So there's a lot of that where the stadiums are just too big for these cities, these metropolitan areas that are already very congested. But I think he's really interested. I think they're still going to Arlington. All that being said, that's all just side noise. It doesn't impact really fans. What impacts fans is going to happen these Sundays, these years coming up, leading into that new stadium. So you want good vibes. You don't want a bad team heading into there. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But we want to know your thoughts. Let us know. New stadium. Is it going to Arlington Heights? Is that for sure? Can they stay in Chicago? Is there a place that we're not thinking of that might land the Chicago Bears? Let us know. We're all over the universe. We're on Twitter at Sports Cubicle TV. For the marvelous one, Dan Marver. It's Devin Tingle. It's Paul Chivari. I'm Mike Mercado.